Hello investors, we're here in Atlanta with our property partners Paul and Sachen. As you know, they've been instrumental in our medical deals so far, and we're busy with our, I think, third or our fifth deal now, Medical 7 coming up. But I think the question on everybody's mind is what's happening in the US. We had such a controversial election. Trump is now elected, it's in office, we saw the inauguration last week. And the question on everybody's mind is how is it going to affect property?
Sure.
How is it going to affect the medical deals? How is it going to affect deals going forward? But in general, what is the outlook? Maybe we start with you, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I think, today is Wednesday. Trump was inaugurated last Friday, so it's still very early on in his presidency. And I think it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of months how things develop. I do believe that some of the issues that he is trying to tackle, whether it's infrastructure spending, whether it's reducing regulations on manufacturing businesses, would be accretive to the economy as far as growth goes. I think infrastructure spending has been something that's been debated for, I shouldn't say debated, it's been discussed as being a dire need in this country for 10, 15 years. We have bridges that are well past their usable life, roads that need to be replaced, roads that need to be added. And I think that would be something that would be positive for the country. Increase the employment rate for some of the maybe underemployed or lesser paid people, and also probably give them access to some health insurance benefits. So that's one rail of it. I think as far as Obamacare goes or ACA Affordable Care Act goes. I think that he's been fairly consistent in saying that he wants to roll it back. I think the Congress, both the House and the Senate, are now Republican controlled, have all said they want to roll it back. I think the conundrum that everybody's in now is the program's been in place for a few years, and voters, most importantly in our political system, voters with pre-existing conditions, with children up to 26 years old in age that don't have a job or are still in school, can stay on the insurance of their parents via the ACA Act. So that affects constituencies that are Republican, Democrat, Independent. So it's a big issue. And I think that's the workaround they're trying to figure out is how do we maintain coverage for these people while still maybe rolling back some of the things they philosophically disagree with on Obamacare. I think some of the things they've talked about, one of the things that Obamacare is currently in place restricts is interstate commerce. So you can't go from Georgia to Washington on a health exchange. Basically, each state is almost its own country as it relates to a health exchange. So if they can roll that back and actually get competition among the insurers across state lines, that should help the process a little bit more. But I do think my take on this is Trump's approach is that if we can reduce regulation, increase infrastructure spending, really fight to keep jobs in America from, let's say, outsourcing to Latin America or Asia, that I think that's his end around to healthcare insurance, that if people are employed, most employers will provide benefits that include health insurance. And that's really the way he's trying to get at this issue.
Okay. And Sachin, your take?
I think I agree with most everything Paul said, and then the other thing I would add is that if you looked at our stock market as of yesterday, it's the highest it's ever reached. It's been record highs, and I feel like some folks are trying to think about bringing more money back into the states with the deregulation, and hopefully he'll be able to. I think that many American companies have a lot of money offshored.
Sure.
And I think he's working to figure out how to get that money back onshore, which is good for business here.
Exactly.
And good for properties and good for growth of the economy. Because we've been a pretty stagnant growth. And if we can bring, how many billion is that, Paul?
It's trillions of dollars.
Trillions of dollars overseas back home and spend that in creating jobs and creating livable communities and stuff like that, it'd be good for all of us.
So if we take our current portfolio, is there any specific impacts that you see? If we expand our medical office block portfolios, how do you see that future specifically if there's changes to Obamacare?
I think that So our experience in healthcare investment and development has preceded Obamacare, been around during Obamacare, and will go on beyond Obamacare. Healthcare is still, in my mind, a very good market. There's certain things in life that no parent, no child, no spouse will ever be stingy on spending, and one of them is healthcare.
Correct. Yeah.
If a kid, God forbid, is sick, or your wife's sick, or your mom's sick, you're going to take them to the doctor. You may forego going to an annual exam, but past that, you're not foregoing anything.
Sure.
And that was the same case before Obamacare. So what happened really was, it's not that these people weren't being covered in a sense. They were like, there was no service for them. A lot of what was happening was uninsured patients were getting sick to the point where they would go to the emergency room.
Okay.
Didn't have insurance, so the hospital would then pursue them to kind of collect the debt.
I see.
If they didn't have the ability to collect the debt from them, then the insurance company, the hospital company would then absorb the cost, what they call indigent care.
Yeah.
So the service was still being provided. Maybe it's being provided on a broader level, but it was being provided. It wasn't that people were, not to be morbid, but people weren't dying on the streets from lack of a health care.
Okay, awesome. And then we heard rumors of tax cuts. Do you think how likely is that?
I think with his approach so far, I think it's something that he's going to do. I think it's known around the world our tax code needs to be simplified. Again, that's not a Republican or a Democratic thing. Our tax code is too complicated.
Yeah, no, we've seen that.
As you guys have seen and we've discussed.
Incredible, actually.
But I think that's based on his actions to date. Again, he's been inaugurated for all of 5 days. It seems like that's something that he's going to do, and I think he has the buy-in and the will of the Congress to support him in that too.
And the people.
Yeah.
I think everyone would
So
like
I must say I get a general sense of slight optimism here from a purely landlord property experience.
Absolutely.
As a result of taxes, as a result of infrastructure spending and the aging population. So the fundamentals hasn't really changed. It's just a new president, and so you don't see real danger signs that we as investors must look out for. One concern maybe the high stock exchange. It could maybe correct itself.
Sure.
If that happens, what then? So that is the other question that we all tend to ask a lot. Do you think there is it due for a correction? Do you think it can continue running like this?
The stock market. I'm not an expert on the stock market. I mean, it seems like at 20,000, the Dow is very high. But we still come back to what we know. We're basic in the sense that we understand real estate, and we focus on trying to find good values and good returns in real estate. And I think the buildings that we've bought, the buildings we're continuing to look at, the discipline that we're all showing as a team on saying no to deals, that we're sticking true to sort of our guidelines of what makes sense for a project.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Paul and them has been through the 2008 with commercial real estate deals, and maybe just share your experience during that time. What happened with the deals?
Yeah. I mean, we had investments that were in healthcare and not in healthcare, and I will say kind of the interesting thing for us was our healthcare deals stayed constant. We didn't lose tenants. We didn't have rent defaults. We didn't have people short paying or not paying rent. Because even through the worst downturn since the Great Depression, people still went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And again, keep in mind, this preceded Obamacare.
No, sure.
Obamacare didn't exist. People still went to the doctor. And we didn't lose tenants. And then not just us, across the asset class of healthcare, medical office, surgery centers, doc in a box, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care, they flourished.
Yeah. I think it's essential also with the Medical 7 coming up. We've taken these factors into consideration. Key aspects that we considered is we actually lowered the amount that we are borrowing down to 64%, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
And we also decided after long debate that we are going to fix the interest rate.
Correct.
Because currently we expect some more interest rate hikes. So from that perspective, I think we covered a lot of the bases that we can foresee as property managers on how to deal with a potential correction.
Yeah. I mean, I think our job is still the same as partners and as investors and as managers is, finding good opportunities, finding good pricing, and mitigating risk as much as we can.
Correct.
And I think that approach is the same that we take every day. And I think we'll continue to try to find those deals and continue to, risks can change. Right now we're in one of the risk environments we're in is we think interest rates are going to go up. I mean, that's all signs indicate to that. And if we start getting true growth through some of the Trump initiatives, then I think that the interest rates are going to go up because they're going to have to control inflation. So we're trying to be smart and in real time in our decision making.
Okay, awesome. But thank you for the brief chat.
Absolutely.
We had a quick opportunity to see you guys again. Always nice to meet you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.